So, dear colleagues, we are really delighted to see you at this first webinar in our joint project with two parties participating. So I'm representing the Moscow International Academy. So it's a higher educational establishment or institute, Moscow International Academy. And I'm the teacher training department head responsible for teacher training. So we provide a wide range of programs of teacher development. So in this series of webinars, I'm going to be a permanent participant and speaker, right, Natalia?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, and I'll give the floor to Natalia. Natalia, would you introduce yourself, please?
All right, thank you. So hello, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. So whatever the time is in your region. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us for this event. And let me introduce myself. My name is Natalia Kolina, and I am academic director of ONARA company. I hope you all know our company, as we are distributors not only of very nice books, but we also love to share our knowledge with you. So that's why we keen on providing all kinds of webinars, conferences, so for you and for your colleagues, for different age groups, for different types of students, and so on and so forth. So today we are going to be actually three of us, not only two of us. So this is the joint event of Moscow International Academy and ONARA company. But so the format of every single meeting will be like three speakers. And later on, Martin Thomas will join us. And so later on, we will introduce him and so what he might offer you. Thank you, Evgeny.
Okay, thank you, Natalia. A little bit about what stays behind our project, right? So the project aims to give teachers a wide perspective on current, I would say, trends and approaches to English language teaching. Moreover, ONARA and Moscow International Academy just set up a laboratory for teachers to join and to participate in some practical issues. So, of course, we're just at the early stage of that, but I suppose in a while, all the teachers might have a nice chance to participate in our joint activities. Right. And of course, the main idea is to provide teachers with up-to-date information on the current methods, techniques, and best practices in a few areas. So for the beginning, I'll share some information about the project because we believe there are some essential points for you to take into consideration. So I'll share my slide, just a second. So, okay. Natalia, are you able to share the slides?
I guess so, yeah.
Okay. No, but my screen sharing is not activated for some reason. Just a second. So let's do it this way. I'll give you the host a while. Just a moment.
Just don't be stressful, ladies and gentlemen. So these things happen, you know. So we are all teaching online.
Okay. Okay, Natalia, I made you the host, not co-host. Could you give the rights back to me?
I see. Just a second. All right. Yeah, okay. Now you are host, Evgeny.
Okay, thank you very much. And
with a single click of a button.
Okay, thank you so much. So now I'll share the screen. Okay, some background information about our course. So as you see, it's a teacher development program. So as you see, it's called Current Trends in English Language Teaching. So you see the dates within which we will be having our webinars. So today is the starting point, 20th of November, and we're about to finish 31st of May. So we have one webinar a month. You see the schedule. So our next will be in the mid of December, and it will be dedicated to effective communication. Then you see one in January, February, March, April, and the last one in May, summer teacher development. So all in all, totally we have 7 webinars. Okay. In terms of participation opportunities, so there are 2 packages. The first one is for free. You are entitled to participate in all the webinars, and after each webinar, you will be granted a certificate, an electronic certificate from ONARA, right, Natalia? Okay, so you get speakers' presentations and useful links. And if you attend more than 5 webinars, or at least 5 webinars and more, you are entitled to get a certificate from Moscow International Academy, right? Just certificate. So if you consider paid package, which is 5,000 rubles, so you get the free of charge package plus, as we say, удостоверение о повышении квалификации установленного образца, 72 hours. So the course here is 5,000 rubles. Okay. So in terms of records, Natalia, we haven't mentioned that. So could you just join me and say if participants will be able to get the records of the webinars?
Yes, sure. The only thing, so that if you tell us beforehand that you cannot participate like in our live session, so please do it so as soon as possible, because if you do log in, so let's say for 5 or 10 minutes, and then so we cannot see you anymore, I'm afraid we cannot provide you with all these recordings and certificates. So we have an opportunity to see so how many people registered, how many people logged in for a live webinar. And as long as this is a certificate granted event, then so we want you to stay with us for the whole session. I guess this is understandable.
Mm-hmm. As for the paid package, you'll have all the recordings. So, and you can watch them within the time. But of course, each recording is ready after the webinar, not before. Okay, so, and for those who participate in so-called paid version, you'll have to do some practical activities, some activities on the Moscow International Academy platform. They are directly related to what you've heard at the webinar. Okay, so there will be a few assignments to that. Because in this regard, we grant you удостоверение. Okay, that's why it's important. All right, I'll mention all the details about registration, I mean paid version registration, at the end of my talk. Okay, if you don't mind. And if any questions arise during our today's webinar, again, you may either put them in the chat or just ask at the end of the webinar today. Right, Natalia?
Yes, and a very small notice again. So everything which is written in the chat is also recorded. So that's why don't worry. If we can see your name and we, for any reason, miss your question, then your question will be answered for sure. Later by email or by any other means. So no worries, all the questions hopefully will be answered. And someone asks about the video. You mean so you don't want to use your video during this conference? It's not a problem. If you don't want to, you may switch it off.
Yeah, it's better if we see your faces and eyes and things like that. It's important for speakers, and I suppose when you are a teacher, it's important when you deal with a student. So it gives us a sense of a community, I would say, right? But anyway, it's up to your technical facilities, yes? So if you are watching us from the phone or whatever, so just keep your mic off. That's the only requirement. Okay, so I'll move on, and today I'm the first speaker, and I'll be speaking about some sort of important issues related to online teaching and some practices. And my colleagues, Natalia and I don't remember the name of the person. Martin, well, we'll give more practical, I would say, activities and share the experience of teaching, okay? So again, I'll share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So my talk is called today Teaching in the Digital Age, right? You know that due to these circumstances when we are forced to teach online, or somebody was forced, for somebody it was just common practice and it wasn't so stressful. First of all, I'd like to give a sort of revision of what is going on. So in terms of teaching, not only in LT, in English language teaching, but in education in general, some trends, some current trends in that. So the first one, which is only at the early stage, but it's already being used. It's using artificial intelligence, i.e. in LT, right? So there are some platforms, online platforms, which are based on artificial intelligence, mostly in terms of checking or making assessment, providing assessment. And there are some platforms who are on the verge of assessing speaking and writing skills. So it's not an absolutely brand new idea. For instance, if you deal with some resources provided by different publishers, some of them have the option of automatic writing assessment. So, and the next step is just to assess speaking. But it's, in my opinion, it's not a long way from that. Okay. That's why we're supposed to be ready to deal with this artificial intelligence and maybe artificial intelligent teachers. I mean, not as a competition to real teachers, but we see it as a good sort of assistant to us. And as the technology is developing, we need to be updated about this information and think how to include, how to take advantage of artificial intelligence in ELT. Okay. Another issue which is quite vital, I believe, is digital literacy, right? It's vital not only for teachers, it's vital for learners, because they are growing in a new environment. They are growing in the digital environment. It's very important to make them aware of some issues they may face. First of all, it's the issue of digital identity and well-being, because you know nowadays some companies have say identities of their users, digital identities. I mean, not only data, but the voice record and something else. And of course, it's a very touchy point because it may be easily stolen and used by people not with good intentions, I would say, right? So it's just a culture of making our students be aware of that and being digitally safe, right? So they need to know what information is to trust, yes, and how to save themselves from different things. The next one is about communication, collaboration, and participation in the digital world, right? Again, some rules how to communicate effectively online and how to collaborate online and participate maybe in some meetings. It's a very important skill, as you know, it's a skill of the 21st century skill, communication and collaboration. And I believe in our lessons, in your lessons, you teach them how to do it effectively. Then it's digital learning and development. That means how to use digital data, digital textbooks, whatever, to provide effective learning environment. And of course, dealing with information search, and they are all connected, as you see. We can call it ICT proficiency, right? And in many cases, this proficiency might be measured. Okay, so it's another trend. Then you might have heard about that. It's called bite-sized learning. What it means, taking into account so great amount of information that all people in the world have to face, have to deal with, and learners as well. Some teachers just came up with the idea to split, say, big pieces of information into some chunks or bytes, as they call it, because it's easily to process. As you see, some advantages of that in the slide, right? It can improve psychological engagement when understand they could do it by little chunks, right? Then it's easier, maybe, and it's easier for brain working memory, right? It's easier to process that, to keep it in your memory. Of course, it can lead to better learning and business outcomes using this approach. And it's absolutely adaptable to modern day learners because they consume the information and process the information in some chunks or bytes. So that means that education is changing in terms of facing the challenges and needs of 21st century learners. The next one is innovation and gamification, I mean app innovation. So there are lots of apps that help us to teach English or to learn English. So they will be developing in the years to come. And nowadays they are sometimes they're just part of a lesson as well, and some gamification techniques which are used while teaching English, right? You might share some of your practices if you use gamification in your lessons. So it's a good area to talk about. Another trend is personalized learning. So exactly when we face the issue of online lessons and teaching groups, sometimes large groups, the issue of personalized learning became more and more, or is becoming more and more important because it has some advantages, such as targeted instruction. So for instance, we address our instruction to a particular target group. Then we can be rather flexible in terms of content and tools to use. Important part is devoted to student reflection and ownership. So some elements of reflective learning are being already used. So, and some are just, it's our, I suppose, now responsibility to make people, students aware how to reflect on their own learning. And of course, data, as they say, it's like 21st century oil, right? Which is used not only by artificial intelligence, but it's easier to process and to use when we adapt our teaching style or teaching approach to a certain person. Okay. Another area which is quite contemporary, and it doesn't concern only English language lessons, but all the lessons are, or disciplines. I believe it's soft skills, right? So modern employers expect employees or just future employees have a list of soft skills, such as you see the core 5 here, such as efficient communication, time management skills, effective teamwork, critical thinking, and adaptability. And in our future webinars, we are going to touch upon some of these issues, right? So these skills are universal, and the employers just value them much more than hard skills. That means knowing a particular subject or having some technical skills. So their value is really growing, the soft skills. And of course, teacher development programs are changing. So those programs which we call innovative teacher professional programs. So they are based on current trends, as I said, on some sort of instructional design, technology integration, the idea of digital citizenship, and of course, teacher leadership. That's why the CPD programs, continuous professional development programs, are changing these days. So after that brief introduction, the next area I'd like to touch upon is blended learning, right? So has any of you used this approach, blended learning? That means you mix face-to-face classes with online classes. Again, it's not absolutely absolutely new idea, right? I suppose it has existed for a decade or so, but in this hard times, we have to get advantage of this both human approach and technology approach. And we see when we speak about human approach, it all boils down to motivation, personalization, feedback, fluency, and listening, relevance, and discipline. On the other hand, if we speak about technological approach, we more likely focus on mobility, structure, tracking and control, self-study, of course, reduced costs and global reach. And if we mix this, we have a very good approach or product, right, which help us take advantage of human approach on the one hand and technological approach on the other hand. So if we just look at what blended meaning is about, there are 7 points I'd like to draw attention to. First of all, of course, anyway, we started with face-to-face training in most cases before pandemic. And some of us used virtual classroom or online teaching, like webinars and some useful links. What is emerging right now? Different simulations, as I mentioned. So they can simulate a certain situation in which students are supposed to speak, for instance, or digital assessment. It's a area right now when some universities and some publishers just develop the systems in their LMS, learning management systems, which assess not only grammar and vocabulary and reading and listening, but as I mentioned earlier, it's writing assessment and it's speaking assessment done by AI. And of course, in this blended learning context, it's very important to give students coaching, one-on-one coaching. That means supporting them in their studies. So after that, I'd like to share some of the steps which might help you if you haven't had this blended learning format or haven't tried this blended learning format yet. So I just, based on my experience, so I just summarize some steps to be done. So in my opinion, the first step is called a technical step. It depends what learning management system, which is LMS stands for, you'd like to work on, right? So you have different options. For instance, National Geographic Learning has their own platform. So, and it provides a lot of opportunities just to make assignments, right? To make assessments, right? And to personalize to some extent students' learning. So the first choice is LMS. So in most cases, it relates to the particular publisher which you use, be it National Geographic, Cambridge, Macmillan, and any other publishing house. Okay, then it's very important to have a textbook with online components or online workbook. Again, I suppose most of you have worked with some online workbooks in these pandemic times when publishers give free access to these online workbooks, and I suppose you saw this benefit and you felt this benefit. Moreover, not only workbooks are now in a digital format, but textbooks as well. So again, there is no need to buy a printed version of the book. So they are digital textbooks with all the, I would say, features available. For instance, you open this book and there is no need to have video or audio somewhere to get a link. You just click on the certain button in this digital book and video or audio automatically starts playing, which is convenient. Of course, there are some other online services which you need to make a decision about, such as services which provide supplementary activities. For instance, Edpuzzle is a nice resource for using video in the classroom, or Quizlet, I suppose many of you have heard about that and have used it to deal with vocabulary. And it's important to set up reliable channels for communication with students. So in my case, as I train teachers, we use Telegram or WhatsApp just to be constantly updated. And it's very important to make them known about forthcoming events and some other issues. So it's fast communication, and I'd say I would admit that email communication is becoming the thing of the past these days. The second step, once you decided on some technical stuff, it's organizational thing, right? So you need to decide on the ratio between online and offline components. In most cases, it's the university or language school responsibility, right? And teachers just follow this setup. But if you teach online and you teach individual students face-to-face and online, it's up to you to decide how often you will meet your student face-to-face and what is supposed to be done online. So it depends on many issues. So what else is important? I believe it's very important to make a decision on the assessment tools online, because as I mentioned earlier, assessment online saves your time, and it's a nice tool to assess different skills. For instance, you can just test speaking skills by speaking, and the rest may be done by the platform. So, and again, is the methodological issue when you decide which activities are supposed to be done online and which ones offline. And of course, if we speak about, say, teens and young learners, so it's very important to inform parents what you're supposed to be doing together, okay? Because sometimes they are absolutely unaware what's going on. Step 3 is so-called pre-teaching. What is important in this situation you need to have step-by-step guidelines for teaching in blended learning format. So you should clearly understand what you are doing and at what stage you're supposed to use technology, because the old principle works perfectly. Pedagogy first, technology second. And it's up to the teacher to decide this combination with technology.
Evgeny, I'm terribly sorry.
Yeah.
So your mic is very, very sensitive.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can hear some noise.
Is it better now?
Yeah, I think it's better. Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Okay. So what else I recommend doing? It's making a list of additional online resources and services which you can use from lesson to lesson, in order not to spend time looking for them during the lesson. So I have a list, and I'll share with you, I suppose, at the end of the webinar, those which I currently use or which I use from time to time. And they are grouped by skills we're supposed to develop. So for instance, services for reading skills, for listening skills, for vocabulary, for grammar. I would say it's about between 35-40 resources I use. And it's very important, again, to decide how to use them. That means how and when, at what stage of the lesson. Some issues also are important. It's just dealing with parents or clients if you teach adults, for instance. And the first idea, because some of them are really reluctant to having online classes. And it's not just the technical problem, it's a psychological problem. Mostly due to the fact they had some bad experience of Skype or Zoom, whatever. But if we explain all the advantages and maybe give a trial lesson, just to understand, for them just to understand, it works pretty well. It's a good solution, right? Then we need to show the opportunities that online textbooks give, right? Because during this pandemic, say, especially in March and April, teachers were terrified how much time their kids spent in front of the screen and the volume of homework they were supposed to do, and these days they are supposed to do, for instance, in Moscow, right? And again, it's very important to give them, if you teach them, for instance, as a group or individually, so that using online services and online textbook, so saves a lot of time. There is no need to write something, then make a photo and send it by email to the teacher, and the poor teacher will try to make out what is written. So it's a nightmare, to be honest. Right. So again, the clients or parents as well need to be aware of the advantages of online tools. And if it's the first initial talk with parents or clients, I recommend having a script how to deal with their questions and to decide on define possible objections and how you would respond to them. So it's better to be prepared to deal with. And the last but not least, it's a methodological issue. So when we prepare our online lesson, for instance, the choice of a book depends on our teaching context. If you work for a company, of course, it is the choice of the company's head or just director of studies, right? And in most cases, all teachers follow a particular course or a particular book. In some schools, it's not so strict. Each teacher is free to use any book they want, but it involves some organizational issues. Okay, so of course you have to rely on your teaching context, be it teaching young learners or adults, is it general English or business English or English for specific purposes, and as well. Of course, if we are in this blended learning. So we have to schedule our lessons in a blended format to know exactly when the lesson is face-to-face and when it is online, and how to get benefit of this mix. Earlier I mentioned that exploring the opportunities that a digital book gives is again, it's a good thing in terms of your approach, using it methodologically correct, I would say, right? Because in some cases, if it's just if you are just starting doing that, you need to have a good lesson plan, including these digital elements in the lesson, and it's very important how they work, and what if they fail to work. Okay, having plan B, sorry. So before giving a real lesson, so I recommend giving a trial lesson, for instance, to your peers, just to make sure it works well, and get feedback and some ideas for improvement. Again, your peers might help you in this regard. Okay, I think that is all I wanted to say about teaching in a digital format, and in particular in a blended format. So I'll turn to some issues related to. Okay, first of all, do you have any questions before I make some announcement? Any questions?
I guess there were quite a few questions in the chat box, but mostly about the participation, either free or paid. I think so we can gather all these questions in kind of a frequently asked question document, and we'll forward it to you, right? So not to waste any time here.
Moreover, I'll open it. I'll just answer them in the chat. So while listening to you, Natalia, and to another speaker, some information about registration. So how to register if you consider a paid version. So you can hear you can see this contacts of our institute. So if you want to participate on the paid basis, you need to send an email to this email address, cdo@mmamos.ru, right? You just send a letter stating that you'd like to do this course, and you'd like to get our удостоверение at the end of the course. Moreover, there is a telephone. You can always contact us by the telephone. And there is a website on which we have our courses. Here it is. You can see the slide, and the list of courses which is available. Not only the courses, this course, but some other courses which might be of interest to you. So this is just you can scan the QR code, or just browse our website here. Here are my contacts. So I'm achievable in all possible ways. So by email, in Facebook, in Telegram, WhatsApp. So I'll be more than happy to contact you and answer your questions. Don't hesitate to contact me. And before I finish, there is one more event I'd like to announce in which ONARA is participating. It is Trendy English Conference, Trendy English 9 Conference. It's a big conference which takes place on the 28th of November, and 130 speakers, some big names as John Hughes, Nikki Hockley, Annie Robinson, and some other leading experts in ELT will be the speakers. Can you turn off your mic, please? Okay, and there is a promo code for 10% discount. You just type in ONARA, capital letters, and you'll get the benefit of this registration. Again, the link will be in the chat. Thank you for listening. And I suppose I'll give the floor to Natalia.
Yeah, thank you, Evgeny.
So, Natalia, can you share the screen?
Just give me a second. I will check.
Now you can.
Yeah, I can. Thank you. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much. So actually, it is usually hard to be the second speaker, because some of the main issues have been already covered, but still I will do the utmost. All right. And we are a little bit behind the schedule, so I will crack on. I promise not to keep you bored or something. All right, so the topic of my talk today is keep calm and teach online. Yeah, and before I start, so I wanted to share with you that when I was preparing for this talk, I was thinking who my target audience is. And it is nigh on impossible so to satisfy the needs of every single educator for 30 minutes, all right? So I assume you are from secondary school, you're from universities, you're from language schools, and freelance teacher as well, right? Okay, so I've tried to consolidate here just a few ideas, and I tried to pick up the ones that seem quite universal for teachers of different types. Teachers of different age groups. All right, and today I would like to share these ideas with you. So what makes online teaching and learning successful? Materials-based versus tools-based approach to online teaching, and tips for getting students engaged. I would like to tell you that here I mostly talk about synchronous learning, right? So when you have your online lessons, and I would not be talking about anything that could be done, let's say, by students at home or while they're doing some asynchronous learning. Okay, and if I start with the first issue, what makes online teaching and learning successful? I would like to look at this situation from two different perspectives. So this is from the point of view of the students and from the teacher's point of view. All right, so from the point of view of the students, the most important things are accessibility, autonomy, student-centered design, social activity, and peer collaboration. And I will touch upon all these points very briefly. All right, so by accessibility, I mean having the opportunity to proper devices, so to a very good connection and to a proper software, because it's, I think it's crucial when you teach online that students might have all the necessary materials from you, and they have at least good internet connection. So to make the first part of a successful lesson, right? Then autonomy. Here, I meant the ability to set goals, and the goals could be set either by you or by the students themselves. As far as we talk about the autonomy, of course, we have to show the students how to set the goals. And I will briefly touch upon this a little bit later. By autonomy from the student's perspective, I also mean managing time. I also mean avoiding distractions, because they cannot say that the lesson, the online lesson conducted by even a very experienced teacher is successful when they lack all these kind of things. All right. And I think so when we focus on teachers, so when teachers, of course, they are in the center of every lesson, but I would mention here three, let's say, design related and teaching related elements, and they are student-centered design, social activity, and peer collaboration. Okay, so it's no doubt that successful online learning requires student-centered design. What I meant here is when we have to think carefully about what students will actually have to do to learn. If we focus on that, we put on our students in motion, and we have an opportunity to help them actually learn. Of course, when I say this, I mean that among what students should do, we can include listening to, let's say, any activities, listening activities. We might suggest reading text or watching a video. And here, by doing these activities, we entail conducting proper task analysis. So we have to think about the practicalities of each and every task, all right? So successful online learning means not feeling alone and not forgetting that the learning is social. Now I'm speaking about social activity. We learn from others and with others, and even if a distance. Even there is distance, students should not feel themselves alone, right? And the way the teacher can be present online is not just, let's say, talking to the camera like a talking head during the video conference, which is of course good, because when students can see you, this is a very nice opportunity, at least for students, not to feel alone. That's why we sometimes ask you to switch on your webcam, not to feel alone, like with all the screen and all these slides ourselves, all right? Again, so the timely and accurate feedback provided by the teacher also helps this social activity as well, right? For the same reason, I think successful online promotes peer collaboration. And even at distance, you may set tasks for your students that can help them to establish both formal and informal contacts. Yes, so I'm trying to touch upon these topics very, very shortly, because this is like our, I would say, second half of the year when we are experiencing online teaching. And you know quite a lot. This is just like a summary for you not to forget, is if I may say so, to pay attention to the details, all right? So if I speak about the teacher's perspective, here I will touch upon effective planning, learner preparation, and enhanced interaction, all right? Sorry. So, and there are a variety of ways in which instructors can help the online learning experience more satisfying and effective by naming all these bullet points like effective planning, learner preparation, and enhanced interaction. Effective planning here includes chunking. Chunking here, this is exactly the same what Evgeny mentioned by saying bite-sized pieces of information, right? So effective planning includes chunking and pacing content. So teachers are advised to design a schedule of assignment due dates and setting for activities. Regular schedule for activities. For a teacher, so to have a successful lesson, it is always good to know a learner's needs, learner's aptitudes and abilities. It is a lot more difficult to know all these things when you teach online, when you cannot see your students face to face, but still there are some ways how you can do that. I think it is essential for an effective planning to have, let's say, a very good class rapport. Yeah, so to establish class rapport is quite essential. So there is no doubt in that. What can be done here? For example, you might want to make some or to provide some welcome activity, right? And so this activity might help you to get to know your learners better. And thus, so after you know your learners better, you know their needs, you know their abilities, you can establish a very good rapport, which is, I think, a cornerstone of a good class. And so should be put in your lesson plan as well. Keeping in mind the different possible types of interaction, an instructor can consider how learners will interact with, let's say, a reading activity, a video activity, a listening activity. So I will touch upon this situation, this problem a little bit later when we will speak about breakout rooms. I think you're very well, you know about these breakout rooms, but still, so we will speak about this again. Learner preparation. This is when learners prepare themselves before going to online learning. And here, when they know, or once they know what to expect, and when they do feel comfortable, it is possible to facilitate the development of strong and positive relationships, right, with other learners, with teachers, when they are having online classes. Of course, all these small things do help to achieve successful online teaching and online learning. By enhanced interaction, I would mention here two kinds of interaction, both in class, or let's say, and out class. And also the task of a teacher, so to make sure that the online lesson is quite successful and the interaction is perfect. So different types of activities for in-class and out-class interaction should be thought of, right? Now I would like to briefly again touch upon materials-based and tools-based approach. What I mean here is by material-based, by the word of material, I mean the book, of course, because so we usually, so this is the normal situation when teachers have a course book, yeah, for an academic year or for half an academic year, for several weeks, for several months, etc. And good materials. When I speak about teachers and when we think about classes, either online classes or face-to-face classes, I think that good teachers are, let's say, mediators between content and the learners, right? And this means that teacher can create different pathways so that everyone can learn. And when we are online, materials alone cannot provide this type of mediation. For example, we can hinder students' specific learning preferences. You know that some students are visual learners, some students are auditory learners. When we rely on the text only, when we rely on materials only, we can, as I already said, hinder these students with specific learning preferences. All right, so if I go deeper, materials alone do not provide any room for embodiment. When we teach, in some way, we are what we teach. For example, the teacher's personality emerges through his or her selection of materials, right? Nonetheless, so relying on good materials in online teaching, I think it is a key ingredient, because when you have a very nice course book, sometimes it's enough, even it's more than enough, all right? So you can present the content accurately. these good materials are accessible to students because they also have these materials by their hands. I'm sorry. And these good materials are adequate to the level of autonomy. All right. I'm sorry. Some materials, I mean, some textbooks, some materials that you create yourself could stimulate reflection. They could call to action and interaction. And so they present content clearly, as I've already told you. All right. So again, so we will briefly discuss some positive points of using textbooks as the only material at the course. But so now I would like to touch upon some tools that help in your online teaching. Of course, this live teaching, like Zoom conference, Skype conference, whatever platform you use. So this is quite important. By tools here, I also mean LMS, that is Learning Management System, which Evgeny talked about, all right? So we can provide pair work, group work for our students when we use different tools. We can assess them, we can give them feedback, and we can engage them, of course. So the main idea here is whatever the tool you use, it should serve, you see, so you may add to this list whatever you think is appropriate. They should serve some pedagogical purpose, right? Not for the sake of the tool itself. Because sometimes when I know that the teachers are getting ready for their classes and they kind of prepare the whole list of different tools, and they are quite proud of that they can use this or that different tool, it doesn't mean that they are ready for the lesson, all right? So my question is, what are your favorite digital educational tools? Okay, so maybe you can look at my screen, you can see the slide, or you may add something else. Unfortunately, I cannot see the chat box, but hopefully you can name any digital education tools that you favor. So these are platforms, these are different websites.
Natalia, they're typing, yes, Zoom, Quizlet, Kahoot, Moodle, Google resources, services.
Yeah, absolutely the same, because you are well aware of what kind of tools you might use during or to make your class successful, right? So I will show you. So I think so. This is the one of our main online tool for having a good online lesson. This is Zoom. Breakout rooms. So this is a very nice chance to give students to communicate. Just remember, I told you that interaction is very important, not to leave students alone. And sometimes when this is the beginning of the academic year and your students have never seen each other before, this is a very good opportunity to put them in these breakout rooms, to make them learn each other more. So to make you, for example, you can make yourself to split into the breakout room of your students and to know more, right? And these breakout rooms could be used for absolutely different type tasks. Whiteboard. So whiteboards are very, very different. So I mentioned on my previous slide, mirror board, and there are quite a lot more. But so Zoom has its own whiteboard, which could be used successfully. Just do not ignore it. You may use even some stamp activities, and so this will make your class even more interactive, all right? So screen sharing, not only you, but also your students when they are making some presentation or projects, they are showing some interesting photos, pictures, so they can use this option. And recording. I don't think the teachers like when their lessons are recorded, right? So we are kind of reluctant to do such things. But I think sometimes we can do that for the sake of the purpose of the lesson. For example, when you want your students, this is just an example, to pronounce the words correctly, you may want to read the words yourself and to record your pronunciation, just to set the example of how it could be done. Or sometimes you might want to record your students making up a dialogue, or maybe talking like a long turn or something like that. If you're preparing them for, let's say, international exams, this could be also a very nice opportunity. Can you guess what online tool is that? I guess you can, but I cannot see or hear your answer. So this is Padlet, also worth considering. So I don't want to stay longer with that. So you may watch it yourself. I will give you a few useful links at the end of my presentation. All right. So another interesting tool. This is called. This is at the left part of my slide. Right, I mean on the right. So lyrics training. So I remember, so my daughter, who is also a university student, so they had, let's say, a graduation party last academic year, and so they wanted to sing a song to their teacher. So they used this very website, which is called lyrics training. So here it gives you a lot of different opportunities. You may choose a karaoke version. You may upload the song that you would like to practice with your students. You may choose the levels. You see beginner, intermediate, and so on. And here they would have to fill in the blanks. When you're uploading this song, you may decide, you decide yourself which words they have to fill. All right. So if you sign up, and this is for free and very easy to do, you see, so your students can compete with other students. As I've told you, you can upload your favorite lyrics, you can print them out, and a lot of different things. Oops, and this is one of a very popular person now, right? So this is Hugh Della. Why do you think he is here? Because this is his quote. He has recently taken part in one of our online conferences, and what he said about online resources is this: more is not better. More is, Evgeny, may I ask you to help? Is anybody typing anything? What is the continuation of this sentence? More is not better. More is. All right, I will reveal the answer. More is just more. Again, it doesn't matter. So how many online tools, how many, let's say, instruments you have, it doesn't make your class any better. So because this is you who is the main source of inspiration. All right, and a few tips for getting students engaged. As I said before, careful lesson planning to enhance learners' autonomy. By the way, routines make lessons less stressful. When, for example, students know that every second lesson, you will give them some kind of task for assessment, they will be less stressed. They will be kind of expecting that they are being assessed. And so some very small, very easy routines can make them feel comfortable, more comfortable. So there should be a link between lessons and homework. And of course, do not forget about the revision. When I speak about careful lesson planning, so I will crack on because I am also a little bit behind the schedule. So I mean that you may let your students know the ends of the lesson. So like before the lesson, you may tell them, you may send them a file, you may just use a whiteboard so to show the ends of the lesson. And after the lesson, you together may check, may put a tick which ends were achieved. A good idea when you think about your lesson plan is to let your students be decision makers. What is meant here is so they would do a task So whatever you are planned for them to do, but so they may choose, I mean, the way they are performing the task, whether it is done in a written form, orally, or maybe you can imagine something else. Feedback versus self-feedback. Of course, when your feedback is timely, when your feedback is encouraging, it helps a lot. But when you teach students how to give self-back, I think so their commitment is way too high. That's why don't forget to practice it from time to time, but they have to know how to do it correctly, right? And so the same thing is with the assessment or self-assessment. Every time you're going to assess students, they have to know what exactly you are assessing. It should be, let's say, one criteria at a time, all right? And when they are doing self-assessment, they should use the same criteria as you offered them earlier. When I spoke about the link between lessons and homework, what I meant here is, for example, before they go to online lesson, you may ask them to read the text, to look at a picture, to watch a video. Yes. Then in class, you may ask them to share their ideas, their thoughts, so what they found interesting and something else. And then at home again, you may set an activity, and so they will do whatever you discussed in the classroom at home again. So I guess here we might speak about the flipped classroom, when before the lesson they got some information so to be looked through. And this is the topic of our third speaker today, flipped classroom. So he will touch upon that thoroughly, I think. All right. Before you go, here are some useful links. I'm sure you may put here a lot of more things, but remember, more is not better, more is just more, all right? But still, if you are interested, you may take a picture, or so we will share it with you later. So keep calm and teach online and be the world's best online teacher, all right? So here are the contacts, and as you see, we deal with different publishers like Delta Publishing, Helbling Languages, and some others. Evgeny told you about some textbooks, and I saw a question in the chat box about what kind of ebooks could we distribute. So if you give us a call or send us an email, so we will answer all your questions, hopefully. Yeah, so because we have a lot of different, very nice, very useful books and course books for different tastes, all right? So if you visit our website, you will know about our upcoming webinars, because we have quite a lot of them. And so, of course, some special offers, all right? Now, thank you for attention. And I guess over to...
Thank you, Natalia. It was
Martin.
Very informative talk. Thank you very much.
You. So shall I make you a host again, right?
Hello, Natalia.
Hello, Martin.
That was very interesting. I enjoyed that too.
Yeah, thank you. So let me introduce Martin, just a couple of words. Martin is an educator from Delta Publishing, all right? And the topic is flipped classroom.
Yes, which Kalina says that Hugh Della, I know Hugh lives very near me, and he's not a fan of the flipped classroom. I'll have to have one.
All right. So I'm giving you the floor. Do you have an opportunity to share your screen?
I do, and I will hopefully, okay, hopefully you can see this all right. I just need to make some quick adjustments here so I can see everyone, everything. And
yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, I just need to, I'm just rearranging mine so I can see text chat and things, which is, text has now disappeared. Just bear with me 1 second. Where is the text chat gone? Sometimes Zoom, there we go. Okay, get it back there. Okay, so hello, my name is Martin and I am based in London. And I have been teaching for far too many years, 28, I think it is now, in Hungary, Spain, and for a long time in Italy, and now London, and now globally for, I suppose I've been teaching online for 4 or 5 years. So I know what it's like for all of you that have had to make these sudden changes. It's quite stressful to begin with, that dramatic change. And I will just briefly say, I think that when we were doing some webinars at the beginning of the lockdowns and different things, it's that feeling of like the students are coming into your class, into your home, and it's quite invasive sometimes. And I think that was a stressful thing for a lot of people to get used to. Anyway, but we're going to be looking at the flipped classroom, and I'll be looking at some points of basically being online, and of course that you can use the flipped classroom face-to-face. And it follows on from what Natalia was saying about your planning and the resources that you can use. And it's very much in that line of the planning that you're doing and how you treat your students and working with them. So we'll go through that. If you do have any questions, please pop them into the text chat. I will try and keep an eye on that as well. If I miss something, then maybe Natalia, you can just shout out, or we leave it to the end. Okay, so without further ado, okay, flipping isn't such a bad thing is the title of this. And today is just going to be a brief sort of like overview, really, I suppose, of what it is, what it entails. And a lot of it is for you to go away and experiment. And it's one of those things that it's been a term that's been used for such a long time. And it isn't new. It's something that's been around for about 15 or more years, the concept of it. It's not something that was made for ELT. It was for other mainstream, let's call them other subjects such as maths or chemistry, general subjects, not exclusively for the ELT or language sector. And it can be applied to any language learning. And I think it can basically be applied to any subject. And the more that I look at, the more that I use some concepts of flipped learning, not everything. I can see lots of hellos. Hello, everybody. I can see those going up. The more that I use different aspects of it, and not this pure sort of like flipped classroom, but elements of it, the more I can see that I wish my teachers had used it when I was at school, especially when it came to mathematics, which I am dreadful at. So it would have been something that I would have really appreciated. The thing of, does it mean more work? It can, but it doesn't have to. And going back to the last points of what Natalia was saying about the planning and, like how you put your lessons together and, all these apps and different things that you can use and, more just means more, etc. Be careful with the flipped classroom that you can get sucked into, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that. You don't. It's up to you to balance how you do things and which elements of it you feel comfortable, and more importantly, probably, which elements your students are going to feel comfortable with. Okay, let us move on. So what is it? It's a way that teachers can give their students more time to go over things, basically, if we look at it like that. Or in another way, it's preparing students before a class for them to come into class and be prepared. And in that class, the collaboration, those collaborative tasks will take place. And you will give more time for monitoring. You will have time for consolidation with them. And that's more or less the basis of what flipped learning is. It's everything that you've been doing, but probably in a different order. And some of you might be doing it all already. Is anybody, I'll have a look. Is anybody actually doing it already? Is anybody looking at, and doing flipped learning in some form or another? Okay, Olga has just put, yes, I sometimes send them short videos on grammar topics. Yes, yeah, and that, just the basic thing of a short video explaining the grammar so that they've got time to play it again, etc. But we'll come to that. Let's move on to how does it work. So what happens is that you will assign certain tasks to them. You will give them, like Olga said, a short video. That video could be on the grammar. It could be something like watching people doing a role play. You don't have to make these videos. And I'll show you an example. There are plenty of them already out there, especially when it comes to the grammar videos. There are lots and lots on YouTube already. So this thing of like, oh, do I have to make a video? No, you don't. It could be that you're giving them a reading task. And if we think of this for online learning, if you're giving them these tasks which are autonomous tasks, ones that they can do on their own beforehand, you don't have that awful silence, which is really difficult when you're online teaching. And it really is very, very difficult to have like reading tasks when you're online, or sit there watching a video for 5 minutes. Those are the things that they can do before as preparation. Then when they come into the virtual classroom, or if they come into face-to-face classroom, they're prepared. They've had time and they can really start to use the language and the skills that have been given to them before with the preparation. And I think this is something that I'll say again, is that that you are giving them the ability to really practice when they're in the classroom. And just having and something that I wanted to say is avoid the word homework when you give them the preparation activities. Homework is one of these, I don't know what homework is in Russian. My Russian is 0, unfortunately. And I apologize for that. Apart from spasiba, I think that's probably about it. But anyway, avoid the word homework. Maybe somebody can teach me what that is in Russian. Avoid that. Preparation. So you're going to do some things to prepare. And then when you come in, this is what you're going to do. And that makes a huge difference, because it always feels, just the psychology of like, here's your homework. Ugh. No, here's your preparation task. Little bit of terminology change, and it can make a big difference, really big difference. I know it does with some of my students. Okay. I was thinking about why don't we use these, flipped learning? Are we too busy? It's new, it's difficult. I don't want to be involved with having to use a new way of teaching, or I don't have time to do this. My students don't do homework. It's too much. It's so much not like that in reality. It's a case of thinking and planning. Okay, this can go here, this can go here, and moving things around and making things available that the students probably wouldn't have had or thought of doing before the lesson. And it's very much a case of just rearranging things. Ah, there we go. Domashka is that right? Domashka? It's homework, right? Okay, that's the word in Russian, is it? That's one I've got to learn. Okay, or avoid. Okay, so how can we use this? Well, preparation comes before the lesson of what you're going to do, what your students are actually going to practically do in the lesson, what their practical work is going to be. So how can we use it? Well, we use our resources. We can use video. We can use audio. And we can use readings and we can use writings. So those videos might come from YouTube. At Delta, we have the app, which is called Delta Augmented, which are course books that we have the video and audio already in it. They can play it, they can access it. They can listen to the recordings as many times as they want to get used to it. They can practice on their own with the videos by, you know, repeating or watching, understanding. And then there are reading tasks as well, which are available that they can see. It's Delta Augmented app, and it comes basically any book that from Delta of course books. I'm just seeing if I've got my course book here. So for example, just quickly, here we go. There's our On Point, which is the new general course book, 6-level course book. So it has, you can see here, Delta Augmented, it has this symbol here. So I scan the page, I get the listening or I get the video, depending what is available for that unit, but the video. There's also an online version we have, which I'm probably not going to show you today because I'm watching the time, so we might not have. I'll try and show it. Perhaps I can show you at the end. You would contact Natalia, who will help you with any of the books or how to order the books. So Natalia is the person to speak to. Okay, so let me go back to this of planning the lesson. If you think of your lesson is flipped, literally turned upside down. So towards the end of let's say we're coming towards the end of a normal lesson, the end of our, you know, we've got our 10 minutes or whatever. I'm going to try and do this because I need to show you let me try this. It might, let me just try this 1 second. I'm going to do it this way. Okay, 1 second. I'll move this across. Okay, so this is an online version of a book that we've got. Okay, which has, this is the online version of this book, On Point, actually. Okay, which is with a code to log in, etc. This is not on the app that I've just shown you. This is very separate. This is a digital version of the book, which has a separate code to access this. Okay, let's think about if I'm doing my flipped learning class. Okay, I would end my lesson with this. Now, hopefully you can all see that okay. I'm not going to zoom in because these things tend to crash, but you can see more or less what we would normally start our lesson off, which is a discussion of pictures. So I'm going to finish my lesson with this. I'm going to talk about the objects that I can see here and just introduce the topic in that way. Then I'm going to move on to the listenings that they are going to then do for their homework. This is the way that then I would assign these parts to their homework. So anything like listenings or readings or grammar that they can have time to, I would then give that as their preparation tasks. Now let's just move back to I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, back to our slides and just reposition that. Okay, so I'm setting them their home tasks then. And back in class, we'll then consolidate those with the speaking activities. This works perfectly in an online world. It really, really does. And it's about, sorry, I'm just going to change the way that this is better. There we go. Okay, that's better for looking at that. Okay, so I'm setting them anything like a video, which will be connected to the grammar. I'm going to be giving them the listening tasks, and I give them any video tasks that they might have there. Then when we get back to class, it's the discussion, and the discussion can take place in class. And if you think about it in an online world, that works really brilliantly. It's more of that time of interaction for that hour, putting them out, as in Natalia was discussing before about the breakout rooms. Perfect. You can go around monitoring and then bring everyone back together for a discussion. Okay, so that's just briefly to give you an overview there. Okay. Accessing content, I've just discussed about how you can do that. I've just shown you the book, etc. You've got the app for Delta. You've also got the videos that you can access and also the online version of the book. Here, I'm not going to play this because I know that internet can be a problem when you're showing things with the video. And that's something else, is that when we're doing our Zoom lessons, sometimes it can be a bit fragile playing a video over. So I'm not going to do that. But as an example, we were talking about before, like, oh, do I have to make a video explaining the grammar? No, you don't. They're already there. This one is from the British Council that I found, and it actually relates to the unit quite happily. Mini English lessons. There are all these grammar lessons on there. There are lots of them you can find. Just check them that the quality of them is good enough, that you can follow what they're saying, that it's accurate. So I've obviously gone for the British Council one here because I think it's going to be good. Okay, so just to say that your students can then access this. So you would assign them this kind of activity. Points to consider: don't overload your students. Really don't. It's very tempting to sort of like, okay, well, you can do this listening, you can do that exercise, and it just becomes this long shopping list. It's better to leave out an activity or exercise that you think, well, they could do that for the faster learners, or the ones that are, you know, the ones that need extra practice perhaps. Be careful of the number of tasks. You've still got to balance it. It's not a case of like, vroom, everything becomes homework, and then in the class it's all sort of like talking and everything else. Okay. Think of the accessibility. Do all your students have good accessibility to the internet? Can they all get online to see this? Most teenagers, young adults, they have their mobile phone and they can access it. So think about, you know, sort of like the video, the length of a video. Make sure that anything that's giving a grammar explanations is only like 2 or 3 minutes, 1 for concentration purposes and 2 for accessibility. And think about the suitability of the content that you're assigning them. Is it good? Is it good quality if you are using somebody else's video? Okay, that's why I've gone to reputable, you know, a reputable site, etc. Okay. What does the evidence say? Well, there are conflict, as with everything, there are conflicting, yes, it works, no, it doesn't. I'm very much in favor of the preparation and giving preparation tasks. It helps those who, it helps the teachers who have mixed ability classes. So if you've got people of different levels, it means the ones that may have a need for more time or maybe struggle with some elements, they might be very good at reading, but their pronunciation needs some more work, or they need extra time for learning the vocabulary, then this is a great opportunity for them. Okay, so in general, it tends to be very positive, but it's one of those theories that are quite difficult to evaluate. But in general, the theories, and there are several universities that have done studied on flipped learning, say that it works. But again, those studies tend to be on subjects such as, you know, the sciences, etc., where, you know, they study the theory and then come and do the practice. But language learning is the same. You say, do lots of theory about the grammar, etc. Learn about that, and then come and use it in the classroom, which is when you've got, you know, that you as the teachers monitoring, and you can listen, check, etc., see if they're using it well, and give some time in that lesson for some feedback of, well, you know, you've got this, but how about this? You didn't quite get that. Maybe you can play the video again that you've given of grammar. Okay. This is my advice, I suppose. Give it a go. Try it. You don't have to use all of it. You can use some aspects of it, but think about preparing your students before they actually do the lesson, the practical side of it. Just give them a few little tasks, preparation tasks, not homework. And that's what I would say. Okay, I think, yep. So just the last points to sum up, okay? Support your students if you're going to do this. Explain to them what you're doing, okay? Don't be afraid to say, this is the way around we're going to do it. You're going to prepare because, blah, blah, blah. Don't overload them. use the classroom for the collaborative tasks and consolidation of what they've been learning. Okay, and that is it. Any questions? I'm sorry I've like very briefly, I mean, that's sort of like skimmed the surface of flipped learning. I shall have to have words with Hugh, but thank you, everybody. Does anybody have any questions or any thoughts? Just pop them in, just very briefly.
Martin, I know there is an amazing series of books for teacher development. Can you say a few words? So yes, I'm a great fan of the series. Yeah.
Yes, of course. I can show you from the, oh, just one second.
Actually, I did set the link to the publishing website.
Ah, right. Yes.
It's in the chat box.
Our new catalog is out, actually. So you can all be the first to have a look.
Oh,
if you, yes, the Delta, it's online. It's not even in print at the moment. So here we have our for teacher development series. So we have ideas in action, which are very practical. So it gives a little bit of a background to ideas like inclusive teaching, then activities which will include that. But here, for example, we have our Delta Teacher Development series, and that's a huge series of methodology books. I'll just try and show you the, here we go, I can show you some here. So for example, teaching English as a lingua franca, the idea that, you know, English can only be taught by L1 speakers, which is, as we know, definitely not true. This is coming out as being creative, the business English teacher, going mobile, using mobile phones, etc. Teaching unplugged, teaching online, etc. There is one of Hugh and Andrew's, teaching lexically. There we go. Yes, Hugh Della and Andrew Walkley, sorry, teaching lexically. Is theirs? Yes. Okay. There's which you might know. Again, it's got the augmented. So there's a full series teaching pronunciation, etc. Okay. And that's just part of our ever-growing catalog.
What I like about the books of this series that they have some chunks of theory, but a lot of activities for teachers.
Exactly.
To be used. Yeah.
Yes.
Very practical. Yeah.
They are. It's sort of like you can sort of like read around it, do the activities, and then you can read around it if you like. So you can try them out and then see, well, did I do that right or not? But yeah, there's a part of the theory, and then you've got practical examples that you can use, that you can photocopy, ideas. You don't even need to photocopy them. You can just use them because a lot of them are board work or anything. And then you've got how you develop those skills in the future for yourself. So there are three parts to them, A, B, and C: theory, practice, and then development. So how you as a teacher can take those theories forward and develop those particular ideas.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Not at all. Okay. Thank you for having me today.
It was a pleasure.
Okay.
Okay, dear colleagues, any comments, any questions? We are just looking through the chat. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything for me, so shall I say goodbye? And is there any, were there any for me?
No, thanks. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, thank you both.
See you sometime.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you stop sharing the screen?
Yep,
okay.
I think.
Okay, thank you.
Right, bye-bye.
Okay, good. So, dear colleagues, thank you very much for your participation. Right, just briefly, if you opt for the paid version of our seminars, again, I'll share the information, how to apply and how to get access. Just a second. So, sharing the screen. Again, you see the dates up to the 31st of May. Then you've got the schedule. The next one is going to be 11th of December, and it will be dedicated to effective communication online or offline. right? And the packages. So if you opt for the paid version, so you need to apply to our Academy. So, and these are, just a second, these are the contacts. Just a second. Okay.
Yeah, and so while Evgeny is looking for the information, so I would like to tell you that if you are interested in any ebook, because they are not on our catalog or on our website, just send us an email or give us a call and we will tell you how you can get it, right?
So again, if you want to get the удостоверение at the end of this course, you need to apply, sending an email or just calling to this number and stating you'd like to have this paid option. As I mentioned earlier, the fee 5,000 rubles per course. Or if you opt for free of charge, just join us for the next webinar on the 11th of December. And we expect you participating actively in this webinar. Okay. One more issue, Natalia. Some participants mentioned they didn't register. For instance, maybe I send them the link. So if you haven't registered, just leave your emails in the chat and we'll put you in the list, okay?
Yes, please. Yeah, this is a great idea. Thank you, Evgeny.
So thank you very much. So see you at our next webinar on the 11th of December.
Yeah, thank you for
Have a nice
participation.
weekend and take care.
And stay safe.